Welcome to the Mind for Success podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Lebbing, and I love seeing business professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs have massive success in their businesses. Are you ready to reach a higher level in your business? Are you looking to rise to the top and break through the barriers that are holding you back? If this is you, join us on the Mind for Success podcast. Welcome to the Mind for Success podcast. And in today's episode, I am super excited to introduce my new friend, Mike Swaleh. He is a serial entrepreneur. He's got over six businesses now. He's been in the mortgage industry for over 15 years, and he is the area manager for Fairway Mortgage, and they have 3 branches in this area. Is that right?
Yeah, 2 branches here in Missouri, but also one in Destin, Florida. That's where I'm
Okay. That's the one that I would like to visit.
Yeah.
So welcome, Mike. Welcome to
Thank
the
you.
podcast. I spoke to Mike last week about what we were going to talk about today, and I think you're really going to enjoy this. He's going to give us a lot of value, and he's just a really super smart guy. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. That's a high bar to live up to for the rest of this call.
So tell us a little bit about what you do and your backstory.
Sure. So you mentioned serial entrepreneur, and I have to chuckle just a little bit because I never thought that is something that anybody would be able to call me and not be sarcastic. And to be fair, I used to think that was a made up thing. And if one business was so good, why'd you have to go and start 5 more, right? But I think I think it's interesting how things turn out. And so our main business, the one that most of our passion and energy goes into, is our branch of the mortgage branch. And so we've got the 3 branches. Technically, we sort of refer to them as the branch, even though there are 3 branches. So that can be confusing. I apologize. But our group of branches is 100% our core focus. And the other 5 businesses are really coordinating with that main business of being the branch. So first and foremost, we do real estate investing. That's something that's always been important to me. And I don't know that I would have the insight or the ability or the motivation to do as much in that space had it not been for the mortgage company. And so I'm grateful to the mortgage industry for turning me on to real estate investing, because I would say that that's probably our number 2 business. We also have an insurance company, a commercial insurance company, a commercial lender, brokerage, and I'm sure there's something else that I do that I'm forgetting right now.
I wasn't keeping count, but I remember
Yeah,
you originally told me 6.
I am also a coach with our Fairway Night coaching company, which is not a company that I own, but it's more like a side job.
Okay. So I love to hear people's backstories. Share with us a little bit about why you got into this business or these businesses to begin with.
Sure. So I'm one of those stories where when I graduated, actually going into college, I thought I wanted to be an engineer, I thought I wanted to be an architect. And then when I realized I couldn't draw, I switched that to engineering. And then when I realized that I'd like to spend more time around people, I started putting dollar signs in front of the numbers and went into finance. Now, when you graduate with a finance degree, it doesn't really tell you what you're going to do with your life. And so I kind of had one goal coming out of college, which was not to end up in sales. So after 15 years of being in sales, I'm just now coming to terms with the fact that that's who I am. No, but started in financial advising, coming out with a finance degree, and had the opportunity to switch over to mortgage for Morgan Stanley Smith Barney and Citibank, who acquired them back in 2008. And it was because I could speak the financial advisor language, but the job opening was in mortgage. So I took that craziest time to be in mortgage, and that's where I cut my teeth and learned. I feel like that was ironically a blessing, because I had to learn through the hard time right away, and then some pretty good times followed that. So I think I was set up pretty decently for success there. And, real estate investing has kind of always been a part of that mix. These other four, attachments, businesses that we started in the last 12 months or so, again, are all sort of ancillary to our mortgage practice.
Right. I love it. So, and you've got a good team. And you shared with me something that you're really passionate about with your training of your team. And that's how passionate you are about telling stories, or that you do that to teach. And some of them are really entertaining. So I wanted you to go ahead and expand on that and tell us a story.
Sure. I can tell a story. And this is really about what I think are your podcast is about mindset, right? And to my business partner and I, we talk about mindset almost exclusively with our team, because it truly starts with that. And then all the other things, that I'm going to keep using this word, are ancillary, right? Yeah, it starts with the right mindset, and then whatever it is that you're doing, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy once you set yourself down the right path, going at the right speed with the right energy behind you. And I happen to believe that stories are a highly effective way of communicating your point, right? Jesus spoke in parables for a reason, for example. And, stories, when you're reading an informational nonfiction book, what do? They tell you stories to illustrate their point. And so we do the same thing when we're training our team. And every once in a while, one of those parables or stories is something ridiculous and completely made up, because we also like to have fun in our business. So I tell this ridiculous parable about why it's better to be a Roomba than it is to be a wind-up car, as if any of us are sitting with a choice of being one or the other on a daily basis. Is that the one you're?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
I wrote it down because I was just really intrigued, and it was funny.
Yeah, and again, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, right? But if you think about a wind-up car versus a Aruba, and I think I shared with you when I illustrated this to my team, we actually had my partner has two-year-old boys, twin boys, and I have a 20-month-year-old boy. So we've got three baby boys who are about the same age, and we have videos of them playing with wind-up cars and then running away from the Roomba. So when we talk about being a Roomba versus a wind-up car, what we're really talking about is, if you think about how you interact with a wind-up car, you really have to either pull it back or push it forward, depending on the model of the wind-up car, and you have to supply all the energy to get it going, right? It's not self-starting. There's no ignition switch. You got to wind it up, and then you let it go. And what does it do? It goes straight until it hits any sort of obstacle, and then it stops. So you have to supply all of the power. You have to get it going, and then as soon as it hits an obstacle, it stops. Now, if you're picturing that, now picture a Roomba. If you have ever seen one in action, we're lucky enough to have one. We named it Betty. She's great. So we, in order to get Betty going, all we have to do is press a button that says start. And it goes and goes and goes, and it does its job. And when it hits a barrier, it keeps bumping itself up against that barrier just an inch, maybe even centimeters to the left or right of where it hit, looking for the path forward to keep going on its mission. And you just can sit back and watch. You don't have to keep pushing that thing forward. It will keep ramming its head against the wall until it gets where it's going. And I think that there are times in our lives where we get all riled up because we heard a good idea or a good plan from somebody else, and then we sprint full speed ahead, and then we get to the first obstacle, and we realize, honestly, why everybody isn't doing this, because it's not a world without challenges. We can talk about challenges here in a second, but then they stop, and then they wait for the next thing to inspire them, right? We affectionately liken ourselves to Roombas, where, hey, if we've got a goal, you're inevitably gonna run up against a wall at some point. And there are times when the path to success is just a few inches or maybe a foot off to the left. And by ramming our head against different parts of the wall, I kind of think of Jurassic Park when he says the raptors were testing the fences, when they're just kind of methodically going through testing for weaknesses. You might be right next to that breakthrough and to head down that hallway. So don't stop, keep going, expect the obstacles, expect to run your head against the wall every once in a while, but be that self-starter, keep that motivation going. And it's better if it comes from within, and it's going to be more lasting than if it comes from me. So that's my message to my team.
I love it. I love it. I'm sure it's received well, because even as you're telling it, I'm picturing all of it. So, and I didn't see the video.
Yeah, it's a funny video.
I'm sure it is.
Kids are cute.
So, yes, they are. So shifting a little bit, because you mentioned obstacles and those walls that we have, can you share with us some of the challenges that you've had with your team, and some of the things that you've done to overcome those?
Yeah, I think you caught the right guy on the right day, because the mortgage industry, somewhat famously as of late, has had nothing but challenges in the last 90 to 120 days. And I won't bore you with all of the details, but it's really been sort of a perfect storm within the mortgage industry of some external factors, internal factors, and market environment, sort of all of the above. And I think people don't realize the depth of it, or all of the contributing factors. But again, it'd be probably a little boring to get into today. But it's caused, there's been some huge headlines of some major lenders across the country laying off high percentages of their staffs. I mean, I've heard 30%, 40%, 50%. It's been ridiculous. And, luckily they're letting people go into a otherwise healthy job market. And so, I think the hope is that most of those people are landing on their feet. But we may have been a little bit better positioned than most people to withstand that, but we weren't necessarily immune to it either. So we've had a period here lately where we've had to lay a couple people off, and they were people that we didn't necessarily want to part with, right? And we're always evaluating people for a culture fit to make sure that they're the right person in the right seat within our organization, and that they're a core value fit. And every once in a while, you run into a situation where somebody meets all of that criteria. There's just not an open seat for them. And that's one of the hardest things that happens in business, at least in my limited 15-year experience with it. So we've also had to go through periods where we ask people to adjust compensation plans, and that's always emotional and hard, and never easy. But it does provide businesses the opportunity to adjust appropriately and get retooled for coming cycles. And I was kind of going through how our business and many businesses are completely made up of different cycles. It's never just businessing. It's always businessing during this, businessing during that, businessing during this. And there's good cycles, bad cycles, mixed cycles, ups, downs. It's just, you're always working in a different environment. And I think that retooling sometimes can be helpful long-term.
Yeah. And my observance of you is you've been able to navigate those, or the fact that you recognize that those are always part of the deal. It's just part of the deal.
Yeah.
It's part of the nature of the business, and you prepare for it as much as you can. And it sounds like you've navigated that fairly well.
Yeah, I would say that we've done better than some, gratefully. And I would say a lot of that comes from just continuing to be a student and studying the environment around you. And, I get over things quickly, whatever it is that we're talking about. If anything, for me, it's about slowing down and realizing that not everybody is going to adapt at the same rate. And, those people matter too. So it's not just about, doing a good job getting ready for those changes, but it's managing the human element around those changes too. Because even, for example, if you were on my team right now and you were not affected, you're still now operating in a different environment, right? Even if you weren't directly affected. And that matters too. I mean, it's really comes all back to mindset and, being empathetic to other people's mindsets as well.
Yeah. It sounds like you do a great job of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the things I find helpful with that, and I know that's not exactly what we're here to talk about today, but again, being a student of not only our industry, but of business, we use tools created by a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. Mm-hmm. And the reason I bring that up here is because he makes the point that there are 6 components of any business And one of those 6 components, somewhat ironically, is issues. And I think, the other components are data, people, traction, vision, and, the 6th one is issues. And I think putting issues as one of the 6 just highlights that it's part of business to have issues. You're never not going to have issues. And the book goes on to argue that your ability to solve those issues and move forward is what traction is. And that's what moves you forward in business. So it's not about not having issues. It's about creating the mindset, creating the processes to solve the issues, thereby moving you and your business forward.
Right. So solving the problems rather than staying in them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And some problems or some issues, mind you, are opportunities, right? So under issues, some of those issues are problems. Some of those issues are just updates for awareness. Some of those issues are problems. And taking advantage of opportunities and solving problems fundamentally are the same.
So what's the difference? Because I have this book. I have not read it.
Nice.
Yeah, I have this. So you're going to make me want to dig it out and read it. What's the difference between issues and problems?
Well, problems fall under the issue header, right?
Okay, got it.
It's like under whiskey, you have bourbon and scotch, right? Under issues, you have problems, opportunities, updates. So, there really isn't a difference per se. A problem is a type of issue, but an opportunity is also a type of issue. It still needs to be addressed, discussed, and solved. And again, fundamentally, thereby problems and opportunities are the same, which is, you'll hear a lot of people say that, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's some context for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I observed about you that I really admire is that you look at your businesses. You have 6 businesses, and you really look to be the CEO of them, versus being in them and even so. Share some of your bigger goals with that.
Sure. So again, all of our businesses are correlated, and there are other businesses out there that sometimes I look at lustfully and think, I would really like to go there and do that. And up to this point anyway, I've resisted, because right now what we're building is, for lack of better terms, a real estate vertical, meaning we want to vertically integrate into the real estate industry versus horizontally integrating across many industries, right? Real estate is what we know. And so we are trying to create an environment where anybody that has a real estate need thinks of us, and they come to us and we have a solution for them, regardless of what part of that vertical it hits. So right now, the current example is, again, we have this branch of the mortgage company. That's our core focus, but that puts us in conversations and allows us opportunity to talk to people about other things. One of those things is home insurance, property and casualty insurance. Another one of those things is commercial lending. For example, some people will come to me and say, hey, I need a loan for a 5-unit small apartment complex. And they think that's a real estate loan because a 4-unit building is a real estate loan. Well, now this is a commercial product. And for years, I've had to turn people away or send them to other folks. But now we have the ability to help them. And, and so on and so on. So all of these businesses that we've invested in are all related to this real estate vertical. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. It totally does. You've done a good job of creating, well, you didn't create that, but looking at problems that people have, even within the businesses, and then presenting a solution for it. Solving
issues.
Yeah.
That's probably, if I had to boil down my passion to something super distilled, it would probably be solving issues.
Yeah, I love it. And that's the sign of a true entrepreneur.
I think you're probably right there. That is literally what entrepreneurs are doing. They're seeing an issue and they're creating a method to solve it.
Yeah. So what are some tips that you would give other business owners that are maybe even in a similar business? Some tips or things that you would give them to help them?
So I was reading a quote, and I didn't prepare to memorize it and give it to you today, but it kind of summarizes what my answer would be, which is all about investing in your mindset and investing in your skills. And I don't know, so I'll paraphrase, and I think it's by Warren Buffett. He talked about recently in response to inflation, which is a huge concern for pretty much everybody in America right now. And he was talking about just investing in your skill set. And that's always going to pay the highest return, because if you're investing in your skill set, then when prices go up for everything else, guess what? You're getting better compared to the competition. So your rate is going to outpace inflation and the averages, right? If you distance yourself above average and prices are going up, well, that means your prices should go up higher. And it's really sort of a metaphor for whatever it is that you do. And that would be, first and foremost, my success can entirely be attributed to what I've learned from other people. You mentioned earlier that I've created something. I honestly, Kim, haven't created anything. I've just learned from people that have tried things before me, and I've, tried things and failed, and I've learned from those things, and here we are.
I love it. Learning from other people is much better. So even learning from other people's mistakes is better than learning from your own.
I tell that to some people and they say, "Oh, Mike, you're feigning modesty," but it has nothing to do with that. Like, it's literally, in my opinion, the phrase "don't reinvent the wheel" doesn't come from nowhere, right?
Right.
Somebody reinvented that phrase from another phrase, I'm sure. So I think all the information is out there. And I think these days, people don't have the problem that they had 30 or 40 years ago, which would be access to information, right? We have access to more information on a daily basis than we could possibly digest or consume. It's just about finding the right information. And I think the, not inability, but the challenge in finding the right information can cause people to be a wind-up car a little bit and hit that obstacle and stop. And I think if you just keep reading, keep learning, keep listening, keep trying, you're going to look up one day and you're going to be far ahead of where you were previously. Yeah. Right? And there's a lot of different ways to say that. And again, I read a lot of mindset books. So there's all these different methodologies. You hear get 1% better every day, for example. There's a book called The Slight Edge that just says, hey, the problem with progress is sometimes it's imperceptible on a daily basis. And that discourages people from keeping going on that progress, and they give it up because what's easy to do is what it's easy not to do. Now, all these quotes that I've heard from other people, because just continuing to learn those things and try to apply them to my life, I think literally 100% of my success is attributable to that.
I love it. I love it.
Just being a sponge, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So
am I just rambling, or is that making any sense?
No, it totally makes sense.
Okay.
It totally makes sense. So it was very valuable. So what is the best way for people to connect or find you? So if I want to go, buy a house, or, I just want to connect with Mike, what's the best way to connect with you?
There are so many ways nowadays, aren't there?
Right, there are. I
can, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. I connect with a lot of people that way. It's Mike Swaleh on both, MikeSwaleh. My email address is mswaleh@fairwaymc.com. And my phone number is 314-478-3699. And if I can't answer that, it actually rolls to my loan team, and they pick up most of that business. And they're the ones in charge of the loan production now, and they do a fantastic job. Awesome. And we'll have all of that in the description notes so that people will know how to connect with you. And I just want to thank you so much for being on today. I know you blessed our audience. It was awesome. I love your stories. I love the Roomba story. That's going to stick with me. Yeah.
So,
well, that's it.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. It was awesome to talk with you today. So thanks so much for being on.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kim.
Are you ready to break through the barriers that are holding you back and reach a higher level in your business in just 4 hours? Be sure to click the link today and join other high-achieving professionals that have worked with Kimberly Lebbing to accelerate their success.